Hey everyone, it's Libby from maighstirtarot. I'd like to acknowledge the Worimi First Nations people. It's WORIMI, and welcome to you, your guides, my guides, and the universal energies. Yeah, don't feel obliged to watch all the readings today, tossing a few out because I know things are going to just ramp up with being intense over the next month or so. Entertainment only. What I want to have a look at, one of my beautiful viewers asked me, the US unions going forward after the information that came out about the auto workers boss. Let's see how that goes with the auto workers boss. I did a reading on that last week, but I want to have just to look at unions in general. So in regards to the strength of unions, pay and conditions, and so forth. Starbucks, the employees of Starbucks have tried to form their own union, of course, which there was backlash against. So some Starbucks owners have, sacked those that joined the unions, etc. Um, but I want to have a look because unions were really powerful. Yeah, it's the greed, but we've got the whistleblower. So it's sort of these are the unions bringing forth the truth against corrupt corporations, etc. And I'm not talking corrupt as in deceitful. I'm talking about corrupt as in paying their workers, $2 an hour plus tips. Some people make good tips, but it does mean that people have to basically check um, their pride at the door in order to get tips. Now, the Reagan Thatcher era, Thatcher in the UK really tried to destroy um, unions in the UK. Reagan managed to do so in the US by spouting collective bargaining, not collective bargaining, getting rid of collective bargaining in favour of individual bargaining. So basically, instead of the collective workers demanding better pay, better conditions, better health care, etc., it turned the tables onto pitting workers against each other. Now in Australia, we have strong unions. We support our strong unions. At the moment, the nurses are demanding better pay, and so they should be, as well as teachers. There's a lot of union work going on at the moment. Our casual rates are about, I think it's about $32 an hour or something, plus overtime, plus weekend and holiday loading on the top of that, etc. We have strong unions in Australia that stand up for our workers, and it does mean that people actually get paid a living wage without relying on tips or bonuses or anything along those lines. And we can still afford. We can. I know the cost of living is difficult for a lot at the moment. That's because of things like a lack of housing in Australia due to our previous Conservative government. Now I'm on a little bit of a soapbox here. Our previous Conservative government, the Liberal National Party, with Scotty Morrison, who very much liked to model himself off Trump, and Farage in the UK. He and his government basically cut positions at technical colleges for apprentices, etc., for skilled workers, for getting skilled workers, which means that we have now got a significant lack of skilled construction workers in Australia. Combine that with COVID, and we had a perfect storm of lack of housing, which means that housing costs and rental costs, etc., have gone up because it's the old supply and demand equation. So cost of living is hard for a number of people in Australia, and I totally get that. But there is a collective awakening coming here. I'm going to use that as the signifier. I'm reading on the unions in the US. So yeah, there's a collective awakening. So yes, cost of living is difficult. Fuel prices have gone up because of what's going on in the Middle East at the moment. Australia very much relies on fossil fuels. We don't produce our own oil and our own oil. We do produce our own gas, but not our own oil. So yeah, there's a lot of factors in there. So I want to have a look, but I'm having a look at the unions in the US going forward. Show me the unions in the US going forward. The unions in the US. How's it going to go? And you want that card. Okay, come on down. Let's have a look. So the first, oh, sorry, overcorrected there. First card out. Now I'm using my mystical manga, MANGA deck. Goodness knows where the box went. But yeah, the first card out, there's a collective awakening and there's a realization that it's the judgment card that there is power in the collective. Yes. I mean, you only had to look at the Auto Workers Union that managed to get really favourable terms. So, yeah, this is wake up call time. Yeah, challenged by the Tower card. And the Tower card is about breaking down old structures that have been constructed on dodgy grounds. This is the dodgy grounds being trickle down economics and personal bargaining is more powerful than collective, etc., etc., etc. That was just all BS. That was BS brought about by the Reagan administration, and it's going to be brought down because it does not work. I mean, how can, using Bezos as an example, pay his workers $12 an hour while he swans off with his how many 12 million a day or whatever he's making. I don't know what it is, but it's ridiculous amounts. Yeah, the the narrative in regards to unions was built on false grounds and it's about to come down. The energy is about enough, practically enough to live on. It's about healing, nurturing, but it's very much about community compassion and having enough to live on. With that Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Coins. In the past, the Page of Coins. Not enough to live on in the past. So we're talking about a page versus a queen. It's not a king. Kings being the further up the food chain, so to speak. But it is very much, it's on a practical level, supplying enough money and security and stability for people to actually live. Now, what's happened with the Reaganism, destruction of unions and false claims, I mean, gosh, Reagan's got a lot to answer for. He threw all the those that need mental health assistance out on the streets, started pilfering Social Security. Oh, he's got a lot to answer for. What was I thinking there? Yeah, it is about a return to people having enough. Having enough. So let's see where this goes. Okay, crowning this reading. The secrets that will be brought to the surface and revealed and brought into the full light of the swamp. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about, and these houses here remind me of it. That process that brought on by the Reaganism days basically was a return to slavery, where the slaves were paid just enough so that they had to provide their own housing and food, but nothing more. So this was very much about a return to slavery. And what have I got here? 3 major arcana and 2 court cards. So this is big. This is about thigh deep in the swamp, revealing the truth. And the truth needs to get out there in that what's going on in places like Sweden and Denmark, where they have free education and universal health care, and yet they can still afford to live. And countries like Australia, which is sort of a bit more towards places like Denmark and Sweden, but not quite there yet. We still do have HECS debt, university student loan debt, but subsidised heavily by the government, and the interest rate, it's not commercialised, the interest rate is purely the increase in inflation. So, there's a lot that needs to be brought to the surface and exposed in regards to those that are making money off the worker. Absolutely. So the immediate future is those that make the money off the worker, trying to keep the status quo. Oh boy, but externally, the Chariot, moving forward, moving on from this energy, It's not fast movement, it's slow. It's about moving forward and working out how the bloody hell it needs to be done as you go along, but it is solid movement forward. So yeah, I do think there is the rise in the unions. A lot of it though is this collective awakening internally, because people are economically really suffering. If you're living in what was it that I read? There's a law being passed, I can't remember what state it was in, I couldn't believe it, that will ban people from sleeping in their cars. If you do not have a house, where are you meant to go? People do not choose to sleep in their cars. It's not their first choice. Where are they meant to go? What are they meant to do? Are they then meant to pitch a tent somewhere out in a paddock? Like, because internally people are in despair because financially they do not get enough. They do not get enough to live on. Hopes and fears. Restriction, being restricted on both sides, restriction perhaps. Feeling restricted. Thank you. Love it when my boys come through. Feeling helpless. They cannot do anything, the workers. Yes, they can. The choice is theirs, whether they want to throw off these bindings or not. The feeling of helplessness is the threats by those that are making money off the modern-day slaves, saying, if you join a union, you'll get sacked. Well, what if every single one of you joined the union? Are they going to sack their entire workforce? No, because the workers are the ones that make them the money. But I do understand this feeling of restriction. If I put my head above the parapet, and I will have no health care. That's a big thing, isn't it? If you had universal health care, what a difference that would make in the US. Because then people wouldn't be fearful of losing their job. But yeah, I am going to honestly say it. People, there's 8 swords pointing into the ground here, whether it's universal health care, whether it's housing, whether it's food, whatever it is. There are these, if I say truths, but they're not really, because the swords are facing downwards and thrust into the ground, that are keeping people restricted. These beliefs of truths, not actual truths, that are keeping people restricted. I fully get it. While in the background, overseeing it all, is the castle on top of the hill, the fort. Anyhow, going forward, sun, full illumination, but it's also a huge yes card, the biggest yes card in the deck. And I'm so drawn to how many major arcana I'm getting. That's a huge yes to unions going forward, gaining power, emotionally walking away from what does not serve them any longer. Now, this is a positive card in this deck because there is no cup spilt, there's no loss. But this figure here is walking away from all these emotional arguments towards these steps. Steps always mean progress, they always mean movement upwards, but it will take one step at a time. So, yes, but slowly, one step at a time, but there is a need to walk away from this feeling of emotion. And then we've got the Queen of Swords on a compassionate level, bringing forward her sword of truth, her sword of reality, taking action in regards to brutal honesty, clarity, wisdom, but the truth of being in a union, but also not being in a union. And then we have legacy, intergenerational money, being able to support all. So yeah, I do. Yeah, it is. It is. We've got the Hermit shining a light in the dark. It is time with that Wheel of Fortune, introspection, investigation. It is time. And we've got here the Empress, a, a big movement forward, birth of something significantly new in the face of what was a hidden agenda. And I'm looking at all these major arcana because the next one is about the hidden agenda of the Empress, of those that are in control, that bring about this emotional loss and disappointment, and are literally raking it in and handing on a pittance. And we've got the Star of hope, the star of healing, the best of what can be. So I'm just going to leave that there and say, yes, it is time. There will be fear mongering and, the usual. Lose your job if you join the union. But if every single one of you joined the union, then, and I think there's going to be a need for community support in regards to this. Support if someone has lost their job for taking a stance of joining a union, that there is a collective support of those people so they don't fear it. Okay, entertainment only. Love to you all. Let's see how it goes. Take care.